Welcome to Reap Your Roots, where we look backward to better move forward. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of sound. Do you have a specific song, that if you listen to it, you'll get transported straight into an emotion or a time or a place? Those songs that make you feel nostalgic, or maybe out of nowhere you feel sad or you feel happy. There's a power to sound, and today we're going to explore exactly how to use that power for your benefit, to lead a better life and to feel more fulfilled. And for that, today I've got a sound expert, Saige, here. Geertsen, right? It's your last name. Yeah. So I met Saige a long time ago in South America, but then haven't met you again. I'm kind of re-met through sound baths that you hold. So Saige is a sound expert. She's certified in sound therapy, and she holds sound baths. We'll be talking about that in this episode, and we'll be talking about the benefit that sound can play in your life, and especially sound therapy. As you guys know, this podcast is all about healing. It's all about leading a better life. It's all about reframing your story, and it's about feeling better, well-being. And I think holistic healing, to heal all of you, I think sound can play a huge role. Now, I'm just barely getting into this world. I didn't know too much about it, and that's why I brought Saige on as the expert to help us get into the world of sound therapy. So Saige, how did you get into sound therapy? How did this story for you begin?
How did it begin? I don't feel like there was ever a beginning to it, because I always it was like a matter of time to when this kind of became a thing for me, really. Mm-hmm. Because in my whole life, I've always just gone to music to help me through whatever I'm going through. I'm going to music for it. Yeah. And then it was so I guess kind of it was destiny. It just this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what path I was going to take, I was going to end up here. So what kind of brought me to this point is in 2019, I stepped away from a religion that I grew up in. And I just said, okay, who is Saige? Let's shed her. Let's pull off this layer of her, and let's pull off this. This was a conditioned thought. This was a belief that she was told to believe. What are all of these things? She's been so obedient. She's tried so hard to live up to all these standards. But what is she actually? Who is Saige actually? And I've always seen myself as a very spiritual person. Mm-hmm. And whether it be in religion or out of religion, I've always been very spiritual. So that has been something that has just kind of played its way into finding my way back to, I say back to because throughout my life, it's been using music a lot to help me. And then I pull away from it at different periods of time. And then I come back to it again, and I'm like, thank goodness, I love you. And then during this whole process of just shedding away all of those parts of me, it just kind of brought me closer step by step onto my own healing journey, to when I finally went to a therapist. And I used it mainly for talk therapy, thinking, okay, if I can just have someone that I know is supposed to just get me to tell all my stories to, so that I can get to the bottom of it, figure out why I have traumas and hurts and PTSD and some things. If I can just do that, I'll be good. And then I can, be fixed. Yeah. I'm going to my therapist, and luckily she also does Reiki, and she incorporates sound healing into it. Okay. And so with her, it was just story after story, and me being so disconnected from my stories. I'm just and she's like, hold on, slow down. What you just said is a huge thing. Slow down right now. Take a minute. Yeah. Think about it. And I'm just but I don't want to think about it. I'm just telling you, And then finally I was yeah, this whole talk thing is not working. So I went to her the second time, or not the second time, the next time after that time, when I was yeah, my stories this isn't helping me. Yeah. And I was I can't do this anymore. I'm just telling you stories. I need to try something else. She's well, why don't we try Reiki? And Reiki's an energy practice. And so she was doing Reiki on me, just moving her hands over my body in certain different areas where she was feeling maybe trapped to traumas, or, maybe where some energy was stuck and needed clearing. And then she brought out a bowl, and I was like, my eyes were closed. I think I even had a blindfold on, but she brought out a bowl and played it over my stomach. And right when she played that bowl, my body just was like, I love these sound bowls. And this is the second time ever that I'd heard a sound bowl live. And that was the moment when I was like, I need to go home and buy these. And I left and I went straight home and I bought my first bowl. And then I played that bowl, and it was like when it finally arrived, because I ordered it, it arrived at my house, and I like stopped working, played my bowl, and just completely zoned out. And it was that feeling again where I'm just like, there's nothing that needs that much like anger or hurt or frustration. Like nothing needs that. Why do I even feel that? Like it just took me from that. And then I was like, well, there's like 7 bowls that you can buy. So I finally went and bought all 7 bowls. And like, I just started doing it for friends. And yeah, so it just is like such a crazy thing with just kind of how it started. I honestly forgot your question, to be honest.
No, this is all good. Like, this is your story.
That's like how it started, where like when I got into it kind of thing.
Yeah. So we'll definitely get to sound bowls in a minute. Going back to, you said you've always turned to music. Do you feel like you've just naturally done that, or did your parents listen to music? Did you have friends that always listen to music and it just helped you through stuff?
Yeah. So my parents have always listened to music, but my dad's always been secretly musical, if that makes sense. Like no one really knows he's musical. Yeah. Not even any of us at home, but then also we all know he is. Yeah. So it's kind of a strange mix, but I just would say it's maybe not something he's cultivated out loud that much. But like drumming, he would always drum. Like
that's cool.
Just had a drum set. And then like my uncle, he's also super musical. I mean, really down my line, my family is just very like.
So you've just always been around it.
Yeah. So I think it's always been in my roots in that way. But I didn't know that I was more of a natural with music until like a point in my life. Like, long story short, we moved from California back to Utah. I say back to Utah. I'm from Utah, but we moved there and then we moved back. That was super rough on me. And then we had a piano, luckily, and I just kind of lost myself in the piano, and I never took piano lessons, but I somehow was able to figure out just playing the piano. And so that's where it's like, I just always have learned like the piano or the guitar and any instrument that I try to play, it speaks to me, words and downloads, inspiration, intuition. It's like my safe place to receive that humans can't give me. Yeah. And so that's kind of been my connection. I would say that like really started when I was like 16, but before then in my life, I've always been musical. I've always like loved music.
Yeah. It's a process to uncover it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I like a lot of the stuff you said was really telling, I think, with music and with sound specifically. Like you said, you used it to connect with yourself. Like it's hard when you're talking, I think, in therapy setting to really like let go of the analytical mind of where you're just thinking and the emotions bubble up, the anger, the trauma. Yeah. The fight or flights getting activated. But in music, you said let go. Yeah. You said you're almost disconnecting from that headspace to connect to who you really are. Like, and it's so cool that you've gone on that journey and now you're using it for other people. That's something that we talk about a lot on this show, is turning your trauma into triumphs. So you are the most capable person to help someone because you've helped yourself through this. And if you can frame your trauma in that way, like, yeah, I've dealt with this, I was dealt a bad hand. Or you can say like, yeah, I know how to get through this. I can help somebody through this. And I think that's huge. And it's so cool that it was a process. I've never been musically talented, like never, but I've always had very musical friends. Like I've got a brother-in-law, a friend who's a DJ. I've got my best friend's an amazing singer. Like his whole family's amazing singers.
Yeah.
And I've always been horrible. And I've always sang. That's never stopped me from singing. But like
Good.
his sister's always been like, hey, he should not sing. Like when I was a kid, I was just like, whatever. But I love music and I've always connected with it. Like my dad has really instilled that in me. And it's always been a space. I like how you said it. It's like a safe space for you. Like even back in high school and stuff, dealing with breakups, making a playlist of sad songs. And it's like the sad songs make me sad, but for some reason it's
a release.
Releases. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the perfect word.
It's like it's matching your energy. So you're able to like let go with it. You're just like, hey, goodbye. You're gone with Let It Go by, what's his name? James something. That was one of my breakup songs.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Let It Go.
What's his name?
I can't remember.
I think it's
either.
James. Yeah.
I can't remember, but I think I know the song. It's not Let It Go by Elsa.
It's not Let It Go by Elsa.
Now
I'm like, I wish I knew that. It's like James something. And he's wearing the black cat or something in his picture.
You'll have to share it with me.
James Bay.
James Bay. James Bay.
By James Bay. Yes, that song. No, totally. Kind of like what you're saying too, like a healing journey. The reason they say it's a journey is because it's literally like you're going through cities of emotions. Like let's just say like you're traveling through the world and you pass this city and the city is called anger. Like you pass all these feelings and then you're just feeling this anger. So let's just say you have one traumatic event that happened in your life. You may have had multiple, but let's just say you have one. The stories will never change. Like the event will never change, but your perception on it will change as you go through a healing journey. And that's how you can tell that you are healing, is when your story or your perception of your story and what actually happened does start changing. So like I said, the event never changes, but when you're angry, you're looking at it like, maybe without saying it, I'm the victim and they did this to me and they're so rude, like that's so hurtful, whatever. And then you pass through the city of compassion and you're like, okay, like it's okay that happened. And you know what, maybe they didn't grow up with much love in their home. And you start to like look at the story with such a different thing. And when you can kind of do that, you make peace with the story so you can let it go. Because the event, like I said, is never going to change. The event of what happened will always be in the past. But the way that we navigate through the rest of our lives can be, I'm going to stay in anger and see that event with that perception the whole rest of my life. Or I'm going to move through things in life and be very uncomfortable moving through it and let go, like go through the city of grief and be crying all the time and just like really allowing it to filter through you. And then you can kind of just like let go of it. And all of a sudden it's not the story of your life anymore. And you like get to choose to change the rest of your life, the rest of your outcome. So that's something like when we're talking about like releasing specifically with sound, it's so cool that frequencies of each bowl can literally match where we're at. That's why it's such an intuitive practice. Like I always tell people, because if you're not safe, you can't feel what you need to. Those things aren't going to like come up if you don't feel safe. So I'm always like trying to set this space where everyone is so safe and so comfortable that they can like have these memories come up, but they don't have to talk about it because sometimes it's just telling stories. So like in this place where they get to have these like memories come up and these traumas, they get to finally release it because I play a frequency. Intuitively, I'm like, okay, this bowl is like calling to me right now. And it's matching where they're at. It's matching this trauma that they're going through. And then they release. And that's kind of how it works too. Like it's kind of hard because you don't visually see anything like physically.
It's all on frequency.
But like emotions, they have frequencies, they have vibrations. All of that.
Everything physical in the physical world has a frequency, right? And vibrations and wow, that is so cool.
Absolutely.
I love the city analogy. It made me think of like just driving in a car and listening to music, like just driving and like passing. Passing through, because there's so many times that I've had those drives. And as I'm driving and listening to stuff, I'm going through all those emotions and I'm processing them and I'm healing them. And love what you said about the event's the event. It's going to happen. And you need to you need to process it, because trauma, and especially now, it's becoming such a buzzword that it's, I think, misunderstood a lot of the times. But, and I'm talking about this all the time to people, but trauma isn't the actual event. It's what caused the trauma, but the trauma is the wound. And so if you're putting your power, or all of its power, in the event's unchangeable. So you're, the victim to it. But if the trauma, which the Greek word, when you trace the word to its root, it's wound. So if you can, I
didn't know that.
Yeah. It's cool, huh? If you think about it as a wound, you can heal your wounds. You can be proactive, and it's something that you have in the present moment. It's not something, 3 years ago, or it's not in some person that caused it that's never going to say sorry. It's actually a wound that you hold now in the present moment. And I almost view sound as like a portal into those wounds where you can really process. And I wouldn't say, like, when we went to your sound bath, I wouldn't say that I had a super crazy experience with it, but it was definitely like, there's something to this that I need
it's just different.
There's something to this that I need to learn more about and that I need to experience. And it was awesome. But I know there's a ton of people that have had a lot of success stories. I see you post in the comments all the time of people that DM you and text you. Is there any success stories or cool experiences that people have told you, maybe one or two that you can think of?
Okay, so one of them is like one of my closest friends, and I actually, like, because we're good friends, prior to the sound bath, I already knew she had like stomach issues and digestion, things like that. And so I'm like, okay, solar plexus is like, that's the perfect bowl for it, because solar plexus is right here. It's all about like your digestion. It covers like gallbladder, all of those parts in your body. So before we went into the sound bath, I mean, I'm always praying during it. I'm always sending out like affirmations and stuff, like, and I'm like looking at it, I'm like, hey, we're going to focus on solar plexus. And then she's laying down. She has her hands like over her belly like this. And I just play throughout the whole thing. And I have no idea like until after, I have no idea what's going on. I'm just trying to be as sensitive as possible in case I feel a nudge to playing a different bowl, or which two bowls to play together, or like what is needed. Because her husband is also there. So he's also a factor in this. But I like totally was feeling like it wasn't just like before, like the mental, I knew I was supposed to be playing that solar plexus one. So it was so interesting. After that, they just like sat there for a minute, and then I'm like, this was like the second time I'd ever like facilitated a sound bath too. So I'm like sitting here and I'm like, okay, they're just laying down. Like, do I say wake up, or like, what do I do? So it's like been an hour, and then she like turns and she was like, can I tell you what just happened? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, I want to hear. And she's like, so to start with, like, I just felt like this swirl, like just moving throughout my whole entire body. And then when it got to my hips, I think she said it went down her right leg, but it could have been her left. I can't remember. But then she like felt it go down one side of her legs. And then she like, as she had her hands here, she kept feeling her stomach twitching a ton, which is very common with sound baths and sound healing and chakra clearing and activating of chakras. That kind of like your chakras can literally be twitching. I've had it multiple times where people's third eye specifically, like different people will be like, right here is twitching a ton. And I'm like, that's your third eye. It's activating, whatever. But for her stomach was activating so much, and her solar plexus was activating. And she said that she felt like it had like blown up. Like she was laying down. She was like, it had blown up to like here. And if I moved my hands, I was going to float out of my body. And so I was keeping my hands there to keep me down. And so that to me was crazy, because I knew that I was sending out a lot of affirmations to her. Like I was like, that this week can be a great week of digestion. And like to my friend, just like, I hope this works. You know what I mean? And just sending out that energy to her. And then meanwhile, she's literally trying to keep her spirit from like coming out of her body. So that was super cool.
Wow.
I've also in the same session had a group of people. There's like a daughter and her father. There was more people in the session.
Was this the solar plexus session?
No, this was actually one I did out of my house.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and they just came over, and I have my sound healing room, so I had them come over, and then in the same session during the day, like plain daylight, they both kept getting visuals. And I don't at nighttime I'll have all my lights on and everything, so there's colors and everything, but in daytime I don't put my lights up. And I think he was seeing blue. He was seeing like blue going everywhere, and she was seeing orange and yellow going everywhere. So it's like things like that where it's just like it can just activate these different sides of you. It can like be a visual representative of where you're at, like your chakras. If you understand chakras, which color is associated to which chakra, and which chakra means what, and how this can be affecting your whole life and whatever aspect you're currently in.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I hear a lot of people like after the fact just telling me like how their whole week has changed because of them continuously going, and then they miss a week and they're like, now I know why I need to go because I missed a week, and I'm like doing everything fast again. And it's kind of like taking you out of the parasympathetic, which is that heal, rest, relax, you're safe, back into flight or fight, and you're just like
back into where we are most of the time.
Exactly.
Almost the conscious mind and the unconscious mind.
Yeah.
Like it lets you drop into the unconscious or the subconscious, and the unconscious, like unconsciousness, is really your nervous system, right? Everything that has ever happened to you in your life, your active memory is not going to remember it, but your nervous system remembers. And that's where you hold it. And that's why stuff like sound baths and breath work, I think it was really insightful that you said like repetition. People will go and then they'll see a difference. And then when they skip a week, they're like, wait, they realize almost like, wait, there was a difference with it. And so I think it's a practice that I think everyone can benefit from, that people need to get more experience and more, I guess, just familiar with it. That's what the kind of the stage I'm at, is just trying to get familiar with it, because I know that it can help me. Yeah. But that's way sweet. I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of sound baths, because if I'm being honest, before all of it, like really in the last 2 years, I've really delved into a lot of this stuff with the chakras and all that. I wasn't a believer for a really long time in a lot of that stuff. Like I had one specific friend. He's also my friend, ironically, that is really into music and makes music. But he would always tell me like, oh dude, your solar plexus is off because I have IBS or something. Doctors try to tell me, or maybe it's a parasite. They don't know. But he used to tell me that all the time, and I'd be like, dude, that's BS. Like I just have a stomach ache, or something. But when I experienced it, and when I really started to like delve into the history, it totally opened up like, no, this can be traced back to actual like inspiration and stuff. So some of the stuff, and you probably know a lot of this, but some of the stuff when I was doing the research for the history of sound it spans across civilizations and across time. So you might have heard of the Egyptians with toning. So the ancient Egyptians used to do toning, which is something with their vocals where they would use breath and they would use sound to heal people. And this was mostly physical, but they'd use their voice. Greek physicians used vibrations of sound, and they would do drums a lot of the times, but it would aid in digestion, mental disturbance, and sleep. So physical and mental, right? And then in World War II, you might have heard this too, but in World War II, soldiers that were coming home that were disabled, they were healing, and this is the start of sound therapy, at least in our day.
In Western medicine.
Yeah, in Western medicine.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah, they would come home either wounded, disabled, and they would use sound therapy. Do you know much about that? Yeah,
they would use so it was like Peter Guy Manners. He was like the doctor who... Or like I think he was a doctor. Yeah. Sir. I think they call him Sir Peter Guy Manners, but he is the one who actually like brought it over to rehabilitate like specific organs that were failing, or wounded soldiers, things like that from World War II. And they would use specific frequencies that were connected to the organs, because all of our organs have different frequencies.
Yeah.
Like our brain has a specific frequency, our heart, like we have a heartbeat, a beat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
it's literally
like,
a beat.
We are so musical, we just don't realize it.
Yeah.
And like our stomach, all these things have frequencies. And so using a machine that can match that frequency can rehabilitate it and teach it back into its own rhythm.
That's cool.
Which heals it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's
Wow.
actually used in Western medicine. So a lot of people will be like, oh, sound bath, it's so woo woo and like witchy or whatever. And I'm like, it's literally so much more connected to you than you even realize.
Yeah. And I think we're getting to a place where the Western science
Yes.
is catching up to the Eastern spiritual.
Yes.
Like it's starting to become one. And a lot of stuff that used to be viewed as like, oh, it's, you know, it's just your mind telling you that it's working, is no, like there's a science behind all this. And
Well said. Yeah.
yeah, I'm more of a logical person. Like I use more of my head than my heart naturally. I try to use both in making decisions and in learning stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm more of a head kind of thinker.
Yeah.
And once I started to like realize that and logically see these things, I was like, wait, no, there's something to this. And it's something that you got to use both to come to an understanding. I think the biggest thing is to understand it and to believe it. And then that's going to be the two things that gets you to implement it and have it make a huge difference.
Totally.
So
I totally agree.
with the history, so I was just in Nepal back in November, which is where the origin of sound bowls
So cool.
come from, right? Tibetan,
Tibetan,
Himalayan,
India, Mesopotamia or something like that, thousands of years ago.
yeah. So this is like I prepared a lot for Nepal. It was kind of it was a spiritual vacation. Like we went there and I read a few books. I read The Untethered Soul. Read that book if you haven't.
I have heard of that book. I haven't read it.
So good.
Okay.
Yeah, I read that. Actually finished it in Nepal and started it again. Like I've read it twice and spent a couple of weeks because
back to back, or did you read it
back to back?
Okay, wow.
Back to back because it was just so good. Yeah, and it talks a lot about the Western and the Eastern and how it makes sense together, viewed holistically. But this is the first time that I'd heard about sound bowls as well, and the first time that I'd heard about chakras. I didn't realize that it's like from Hinduism and it's traced all the way back to like 1500 BC. Yeah. And that it has it's the foundation of their spirituality. But with the sound bowls, when we were there, I went to a shop that sold them and they had me stand in a huge bowl.
Yeah.
And they did that. And then he also had another bowl that he would put on certain muscles for like muscle regeneration. That's a big thing in Hinduism. We had just done like a 3-day trek through the Himalayas, so I was really sore. Yeah. And he was having me stand in it, and he was vibrating, and I could feel the vibrations up my legs. And then he was putting them on my quads, and he would put and do the circle. We have one actually right here.
Yeah. Here we are.
Yeah. This is the one we bought for those watching.
Kidding.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll sound for those listening. We'll just cut this out if it doesn't. But do you want to do it? You probably. Sure. You're the expert.
My bowls are different, but
yeah, that's probably a Taurus thing.
See if they hear it.
Yeah. If that messes with the audio, we'll just have to cut it out. But yeah. But what I was with that, I guess, story, what I was realizing is that the vibrations, just like massages, just like EEG and other things with your brain, it really does heal. The vibrations, I think, are a huge side of it. And what the guy told me that I talked to, we talked to a lot of Buddhist monks and a lot of people that practice sound therapy as well. And one of the guys that I talked to explained how there's two different kinds. There's sound bowls and there's healing bowls. So sound bowls is, at least in his practice that he was doing, sound bowls were mainly for emotions and for mental stuff, and it's something that you listen to and you get on that frequency. And then healing bowls was more about the vibrations, and that's the one that he was pressing against my leg, and I could feel it the vibrations more than just listen to it, because it didn't make as much of a sound as like this one does.
Yeah.
So he classified it as two, as singing bowls and as
healing bowls.
Yeah. The ones that you use is
singing bowls.
Singing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's more
emotional.
At
least that's what it sounds like. I haven't heard of the ones that are what was the other one?
Healing bowls, and didn't really make a sound like when you did it, but it was a big vibration.
That's
like
amazing.
when he had me stand in it, I couldn't hear too much, but it was just like up my legs.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
So yours is more focused in the emotional, the singing bowls, I guess.
Yeah. The emotional, the spiritual.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I do actually have, like, even for my mom specifically and her friend, this is like completely separate sound baths that I've done.
Yeah.
But every time, so my mom had neck surgery recently, and she's had horrible pains in her neck for like 2-3 years almost.
It's not fun.
Yeah. So for her, she's like, it's so weird. Every time you play bowl, all of a sudden it goes away. Like I have no pain at all.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm just like, cool. All I did was play these bowls for you.
I don't know what I'm doing, but it's working.
Exactly. Like so that's so cool. And then her friend Melissa, she just barely came to my Sunday night one just this past Sunday. And she said the same thing to me. I think she said it was like something in her back. She was like, I have this problem with my back, and as soon as you were playing, it went away. And then I know one of my uncles also said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like people do also receive like physical
benefits.
Yeah. But like a huge thing too, like as you dive way deeper into, the reason I'm like hesitating saying this, because there's a lot more to it than probably what we have time to cover. But like as you dive into like healing spiritually and emotionally, you realize that the things that you're holding on to in your body create physical hurts.
Yeah.
So neck pain, or I mean, obviously if you physically like mess your body up and you get injured, like that's going to affect you. But a lot of people don't know how something happened, and it's just a matter of years, and something in their body is just really off and it's really hurting. And so when you go through and like are emotionally touching base with those hurts, it's like if it's an emotional pain, it can be relieved too. And our brains like memorize our pain.
Yeah.
And like the way our neural pathways go is like they know the same path to go. Like I'm doing this because I'm imagining that's what
those are the neural pathways. I'm on your I know what you're talking about.
It's like they know, okay, like you wake up at this time, this is the time that it starts to hurt. Let's go. Like start doing their thing, and you just start getting your pain again. And you memorize that. Yeah,
your brain's recording.
It's recording
your life the entire time.
Exactly. Totally. And so you like get used to these things, but when you break your own patterns and you like push yourself out of it, which is so uncomfortable, you start to heal. And you try new activities. You try painting, even though you're told you're not a good painter. You don't have to be good to paint. Just paint.
Yeah.
Try something new. Like try an instrument. You don't have to be musical to try an instrument. Like you love to sing still, and that's so good. Like doing that literally can create millions of new neural pathways that can actually heal your pain body.
Yeah.
And so I say pain body because that's a thing too. Is like we literally just have this body that's like, I know how to walk in pain. All of the pains that we've ever had in our whole life, like our body knows how that would feel. That's why sometimes we brace ourselves if we're about to fall, because we know that it's going to hurt. So yeah, that was kind of a tangent.
No, that was an awesome tangent. That was awesome.
But
with the neural pathways working, our brains are trying to be comfortable. They're trying to predict the future all the time.
Yeah.
So it's gonna almost give you that pain because it's comfortable. Like this is what happens at this time, like you said. And it won't
let you down.
Yeah.
I'll remind you.
Yeah, I'll remind you. It wants like a comfortable, and it wants to predict patterns, and it wants to feel like it's in control. And I like how you said, you got to get uncomfortable. You got to let go of control to be able to rewire your brain and rewire those neural pathways. And they could be neural pathways from generations past. They could be from childhood. The big thing with Reap Your Roots is holistic healing, which is probably know holistic, meaning it's the whole of your person. It's the whole of your well-being. So what you do physically is going to affect what you do emotionally, and what you do, what you do even socially is going to affect, your mentals and everything, vice versa. Totally. So I think sound is a very key component, this therapy, to heal holistically, not just heal one part of you or one trauma. And although healing bowls and singing bowls, that guy told me there was a difference, but I think it translates into what you need, and it's going to give you what you need too. Yeah. Like with the stories you just told. So totally. Yeah. I love it.
Totally. I know.
Well, yeah, I don't know how much time we have left. Probably not too much, but but we have had a really good conversation. I've learned a lot from you, and learned
likewise, a
lot of that. I know I need to do. I know I need to do more work. I know I need to go
to more sound baths.
Yeah, to more sound baths. I need to come. Where can people find you if they want to go to sound bath, if they're just getting into this world?
Yeah, so I mean, on Instagram, that's the best place, because that's where I'm posting when my next events are, kind of things like that.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, I'm Saige Frequencies.
Saige Frequencies.
Yeah. So it's SAIGE Frequencies. You can find me there. And then, I'll just post Sunday nights. I do donation-based sound baths, and those are group sessions. That's located in Sandy, Utah at Synchronicities. And then there's like one-on-one rooms that I could do a one-on-one session. I do those as well. I do couple sessions, family sessions. I do events, so I can like go to places too.
Yeah.
But mainly right now, I just stick to the like Sunday night sound sessions as my group ones.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that was the one where I found you. A mutual friend of ours posted you on their story.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And I was like, oh, I need to go check that out, because I had just gotten back from Nepal. And just bought that dinky thing. Yeah.
Timing.
Yeah. It's all crazy. Orchestrated. Kind of like how you were saying in the beginning of like, you knew you were going to end up sitting here. Our lives are orchestrated. Yeah. But we have to be open, and we have to be proactive in letting it happen.
It's so true.
And I just love how you've turned, something that you've discovered, but your journey, as you called it, of healing, and you've turned it into serving others. That is so empowering for, honestly, any trauma or anything that we go through. It's for us and for our progress, but think about just flipping the script and making it for others.
Yeah.
Because they'll make you the master of any pain or any hurt that you've experienced.
Totally.
So thank you for coming. Thank you for sitting here, and people better start showing up.
Better come.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all.
Yeah. We'll definitely come again when we have time and continue to promote it. But thank you for joining us on Reap Your Roots.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.